Hello, everybody. James here. This is a Stevie Richards show exclusive clip, not in the shows, because Stevie really wants to talk about this especially, and it is regarding TNA and kind of just what the heck is going on there. Stevie, I sent you a bunch of articles. You've got a bunch of news as well to talk about. So before we get into the weeds of all this, Stevie, what do you make of all these mass exodus, kind of like half forced? Half people wanting to leave of their own volition, all within a couple of weeks.
Well, first and foremost, I really did want to do this video until you said that we're going to go with the standard Zoom recording and the audio and video. Yeah, I'm already, yeah, we got to get past that. Most important thing to talk about is obviously, first and foremost, on the front of what you talked about, Tommy Dreamer. Tommy Dreamer is probably one of the most notable ones to leave, maybe the most notable one over the past several years because he's been mostly in, but in and out of TNA, especially in a backstage role, helping the younger talent. And definitely for Tommy Dreamer to basically say, this is the end of my working relationship with TNA. It's mutual, according to Dreamer, on Busted Open. Now, two things. For Dreamer to say, yes, my time has come to an end, that is an indictment of what's going on at TNA when somebody that loves the business, and that's going to be a theme throughout this clip. I've never met anybody. You can have a list of certain people or whatever, but for me, when someone asks me who has the most amount of love and just obsession with professional wrestling, who loves professional wrestling the most out of anybody you've ever dealt with, in my case, well over 30 years, first name that comes to the top of my mind is Tommy Dreamer. And for Tommy to say it was mutual, meaning I wanted to go, and on the other end, for TNA to say, yes, we think it's a good idea for somebody that loves the business, but nobody loves the business more than Tommy Dreamer. Nobody gives their heart and soul and complete being to this business. Yeah, we think it's time for you to go. There's something going on here, and history has constantly repeated itself. And I think we're going to dive deeper after we talk about the Dreamer stuff. That this is literally TNA. I say it all the time. TNA is going to TNA. And this is the most TNA way of TNAing.
Okay, so the whole mutual thing is that there was a video put out. He was talking about this on Busted Open Radio yesterday. The most unflattering camera angle I've ever seen of Tommy Dreamer as well. It's almost like a fisheye lens where he's in the corner. But he's crying throughout talking about all this. He's really emotional and then saying a mutual decision. I'm actually looking at right now. TNA's creative leadership team will see an immediate shift. Tommy Dreamer, who has worked with TNA's creative and talent relations departments, is leaving the company as TNA and Dreamer mutually agreed to part ways. Do you know what I was looking with that video is somebody crying and really loving the business and wanting to remain there. That didn't look mutual.
Yeah, that's another point. Excellent point. With that, Dreamer definitely is somebody, like I said, he wears his heart on his sleeve. He loves the business. That clip will reinforce it if the other 4 million things Tommy Dreamer has done throughout his career to prove that he loves this business. Everywhere back from ECW, the 10 cane shots from the Sandman, trying to earn the respect of the wrestling fans and other people on the roster, to when ECW was in deep financial trouble. Dreamer buys the ring truck, for the company to make sure the ring gets there. Dreamer was running merchandise out of his parents' house early on when I was with the company and started to, get to know everybody and be a part of the full-time roster. But yes, I was saying that, like, not that Dreamer, maybe Dreamer in some ways was emotional, saying, what more can I do with this? How much more can I help? I've done all I can do. And maybe just like with WWE, with Triple H and the entire team of professional wrestlers to probably still have a passion for it, it feels like TNA, the corporate infrastructure there, is taking all the joy out of that. Do you think there's some kind of, I guess, similarity? And TNA is working with WWE too, so there's a lot of different little elements here that might be pure speculation, but might be a part of this. And Dreamer's in good standing as far as I checked last time, and when we did talk, that he's still in good standing with WWE. He didn't leave on bad terms. So it is very strange.
Do you think there's going to be opportunities for Dreamer in WWE or maybe even AEW?
That's what I was really thinking about this morning when I was reading through the articles and everything, and after watching the video, is Dreamer still has a ton to offer, but physically he gets in the ring and it scares me honestly that, you want your friend to kind of be healthy. And I'm sure he's hurting and he's going in to do business. Once again, the love and everything that you feel emotionally overrides the logic of getting into the ring with younger talent and doing the stuff where Dreamer wants to perform at their level. I did think, well, he's definitely on good terms with WWE. I don't know about AEW, but we kind of have to think about this too, James, and everybody watching. Like, how tightly bound are TNA and WWE? So if somebody gets released from TNA, does that mean they're kind of blacklisted from WWE? If somebody leaves TNA, even mutually, is there a path for WWE? I know Santana is one of those people that WWE is interested in. We're going to get to the other talents, but it's a very, very gray area and very vague. I don't understand their relationship. And if Dreamer's doing that, may AEW, Tony Khan would be smart to bring Tommy Dreamer into the company. And maybe it would be a new challenge for Dreamer to do things at AEW.
So, with that being said, I'm looking here that the immediate replacement that apparently had been discussed before Tommy Dreamer announced his leaving TNA was Road Dogg Brian James. Now, that isn't entirely surprising because Road Dogg has recently done interviews saying that he wasn't happy in WWE, too much corporate structure, he wasn't making a difference, etc. And he wanted another challenge where I guess his voice would be heard more. Road Dogg is one of those names discussed. Another one is Delirious. PW Insider suggested Delirious might be booking either interim or short term, or maybe he replaces Dreamer, I don't know. But the front runner, I guess, is Road Dogg at this point.
That'll be a great front runner right there. But once again, we're talking about that just brings my antennas up to talk about, okay, well, I guess they are separate in some ways, but working together. Talking about WWE, you leave creative with WWE and basically go to TNA. It could have been a very easy transition. Just say, I want to go book TNA. If he was Road Dogg, maybe he did make that known to Triple H and everybody in Power. But yeah, very strange. I didn't know if Delirious did anything with TNA previous to that. Did he do any backstage stuff with them throughout the years?
I'm wondering if he did something like in the late 2010s or something. I can
Well,
find that out.
he did the thing. He was in Joe's debut match way back in the day, so he was a roster member for a point in time. But yeah, with that being said, like that's very strange. Jimmy Jacobs was a writer in TNA. I don't know if he's even still there. He's writing for WWE until the selfie with the box. Remember that?
There was that. Was that not that he wanted to get fired at that point? Or that was the prevailing theory?
I think there was, yeah, some kind of thing where he was kind of like wanting it to happen. But he did do some work with TNA, I believe, after that.
He, speaking of Delirious, he returned to Impact TNA 2022-2023 for a while, but I think he was actually a wrestler rather than, I don't know if he was doing anything backstage, but he was on screen at that point.
During that time, though, there was the Dreamers, Delos, and other people that were actually player coaches in a way. There was people being agents who were also on the full-time roster. Who was the other one I was thinking about? There's quite a few people in and out of positions, aging and having occasional matches where they were doing 50-50 work.
Another person who has left is Tessa.
Oh, Rhino. Rhino is the other one. I'm sorry. Rhino was I don't know if he's still with the company. And that's what Swinger, we're going to get to that too, because that's the part of the pattern. But Swinger's really looking to get an agent job along with wrestling because it's like Charles Robinson. We always have to mention evil Charles Robinson. Charles is a referee, but Charles is on the ring crew. So you're kind of always booked to do something no matter what, having, a way to be even more indispensable to the company. And that's another word about Dreamer, an indispensable resource for any wrestling company.
Johnny Swinger, then, because you want to bring up Johnny. When did he leave, and essentially what was the issue or whatever? You said he was ghosted, essentially, didn't you?
Well, isn't that the thing with TNA? Even when I was there or before I was there and definitely after, there gets to this point, you get signed and let everybody, we'll give everybody the lowdown of bizarre world and wrestling and maybe even corporate America now. Like usually the way it used to be, the more experience you got and the more time you were with a company, the more seniority what happens to your pay? And what happens also to your job security as you get more experience in a wrestling promotion? What should happen,
Well,
James?
I was maybe I'd have to ask Gail Kim, but normally you get paid more and you get more seniority and you get more respect within the structure of the business and more power, maybe more influence.
Wrong. That's not what happens at all. Did you bring in the prices right? Wow, wow, wow. When somebody loses a game show contest. But yeah, it doesn't work that way in wrestling usually. And it definitely doesn't work that way in TNA. If anything, you hope you stay at the same bookings and pay. There's no upward mobility. There's no opportunity. And especially as you prove that you can get over one way or another, Swinger is one of those people. And, as much as we joke about whatever, you're never going to get booked again, those types of things in the past, Swinger got over with that retro, old school carny wrestler from the 80s gimmick, everything from the headband and the fanny pack and all that stuff. And he didn't need to wrestle. He had backstage vignettes then in Swinger's Palace. The t-shirts were one of the top sellers back then. And as all that's going on, I could see it because guess what I didn't see? Johnny Swinger on TNA Wrestling TV. So I'm looking at that, or Impact, or whatever they called it. That's a whole nother problem, just changing the face of wrestling forever by changing your name every 3 to 6 months. But Swinger was, I term it as, back then, he was like the Danhausen in TNA. You could plug Swinger into anything. As a matter of fact, they had people coming into the Swingers Palace stuff, and I think they did like a real world type thing way back in the day where he put them all in the same house. That was really fun. That was years and years ago, but that's a guy that you could have plugged into anywhere, and he wasn't that much of off the payroll. But they have this thing where you come in, you make a difference, you get yourself over, and then when it comes time to either get paid the same, get the contract extended, or God forbid, you want more money because you outperformed the deal you had. Oh, then they start to kind of, they start to call you off and you're on TV less. How many am I describing the actual pattern recognition of a TNA wrestler from the time they get signed for the most part until they literally fade away? And you ask the question, well, did they get released? Did they leave? What happened? How many times have you asked that throughout the years?
With TNA, that's a very interesting one as well. Was Swinger an agent? And actually, when did he just
He
stop
wanted to
working
be.
there? He wanted
No,
to
he
be.
wanted to. He wanted to be, but it's once again, hey, I want to contribute more. And they're like, yeah, let's just get through this week and kind of pat him on the head and do your segment. It's just everybody ends up just about in the same spot in the end of whatever TNA run or whatever you want to call it.
Let's move on. Tessa Blanchard. This is a very interesting one that I was only thinking about just this morning, that there might be wider implications, is that someone in TNA gave Tessa the ultimatum because you're working for CMLL. The Undertaker, someone goes, can't say those letters.
Hey, brother, hold on there. Hold on, dude, as
Hold on, dude.
conversational Hulk Hogan would say. Hold on, dude.
Hold on, brother.
I love when Dan Soder does it. Well, Will Sasso and Dan Soder on Van Fleet, and they did it. And anytime you accuse Hulk, the conversational Hulk Hogan, hey, hold on, wait a minute, dude. Wait a minute, dude.
Was,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, it's more interesting with the CMLL thing because Tessa Blanchard was given the ultimatum, essentially. She was told, you can't work for both companies anymore, TNA or CMLL. And she went, all right, well, CMLL then. They book me more and they pay me better. See you later. And also, I think she just likes it in Mexico more now. And that made me think, why would TNA give CMLL and TNA and Tessa the whole, you know what I mean? It's got to be one or the other now. And then just a few days early with the podcast with Undertaker and Rey Mysterio, like they don't want to acknowledge CMLL at all.
Oh,
you know what I
so
mean?
now they're working together. Now we talk about in these situations, WWE and TNA are on the same page. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
That's my theory. It's like, why would you bring that up now all of a sudden? Because she'd been doing both for ages. But now all of a sudden, because WWE are now encroaching on traditional CMLL territory in Mexico City. I didn't realize this. is that CMLL owns all their major buildings that they
Oh,
run
really?
every week. Yeah. So they make money hand over fist. They're more of a live event company than AAA are. They're more TV focused, but they make money hand over fist. They haven't got any rental costs like Arena Mexico or whatever it might be. So
Wow, that's a smart play.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a smart play by CMLL.
they own
You know
the
what's funny?
land. They own the land that the arenas are on as well.
Oh
So
my
they've
God.
done great work there over the years. But yeah, with
And with
Tessa,
the,
I'm sorry.
but normally wrestling promotions would say we own all this, we have no overhead and everything, but sorry, brother or sister, the house is like we can't afford to pay. You've done really well and you've been here a while. It's old toys and new toys. You bringing that up is fascinating. You know why? And this is everywhere else. I have to keep saying corporate America in 2026, people work, and definitely wrestling is a blessing. So people have to work 9 to 5 or even longer and put up with jobs they hate and everything. We understand the full view of that. But TNA is very interesting because guess what? We're not going to commit to you. As a matter of fact, we're going to ghost you. We're going to, yeah, you're not going to give you more money. You're just going to run, your contract's just going to run out and we're not going to renew it or even let you know that we're not going to renew it. But Tessa Blanchard, we need for you to commit to us right now and make a decision. Isn't that funny how that double standard works?
It is funny, isn't it?
Or maybe here's a little bit of a theory. Wrestling, you might think that like these wrestling promoters and the people that run the business are confrontational and will tell you you're fired and all that stuff and take pleasure. Most times, think about it. These promotions don't want the guilt of saying they fired somebody. They don't want the guilt of saying they released somebody. So guess what they did? Oh, well, she broke up with us. We didn't break up with her. It's a guilt-free breakup because they gave her an ultimatum knowing Tessa 100 times out of 100 is going to pick CML. Can you see that?
Yeah, they basically give you a choice, but it's like Hobson's choice. There isn't a choice.
And they don't have to say, we tried to keep her, brother, tried to keep her, but she wanted to leave.
Let's move on. Speaking of somebody else who wanted to leave, there was actually a couple of the women as well who've already left in the last few months as well, requested and were granted their releases. Steve Macklin, that's the most interesting one. Quote, last week I requested my release from TNA. I put my blood, sweat and tears into everything I've done over the last 5 years, and I'll always be thankful for my time there, but now it's time to stack bodies. See you soon. Okay. A couple of weeks earlier, here's the full story, is that Steve Macklin, we think was unscripted, went up to Carlos Silva, who was TNA president. He will randomly sit there at ringside. Like, he looks blind. He's always wearing sunglasses and a cap. But he's not blind. But he went up to him and kind of like said, you sit back there in your cook chair, buddy, and whatever else, blah, blah, blah. Apparently that may well have been unscripted, and sort of like Carlos's reaction kind of looked unscripted as well. And then in storyline, he's fired, right? Because I can't remember what he does. He like attacks.
That's the worst storyline to get in when the feaster fired, because you very well could be fired.
Oh, well, here's what's more interesting is that they fired him for whatever he was doing, attacking Mike Santana or whatever it was. And then then it may have been on the same episode that they not only, if it wasn't the same episode, it was the next episode. They not only brought him back, but gave him a world title shot against Mike Santana. It's like, boy, that's the worst punishment I've ever seen in my life. And then he loses to Mike Santana, and then he quits for real. So there's that as well. But he said he was incredibly dissatisfied with the creative that he was being presented with. And he was one of their bigger names in TNA as well. But the Steve Macklin thing is just piling on people wanting to leave, piling on people who are leaving by mutual decisions.
It's pattern recognition. This is the pattern. Even when I was there and before I was there, I heard stories about this kind of thing. But right now you're supposedly a major wrestling promotion. You have WWE really working as a partner. And if you're going to be even just a feeder system for WWE,
dude, let's get that one, nip that one in the bud. Since TNA went to AMC, there has been barely any, or at least on screen, NXT, TNA, WWE crossover at all. Since they've been on AMC, there's been practically nothing. They've been out on an island, really. And they keep losing people. Like, on the first episode, they lost the Rascals, like, that's 4 wrestlers on the undercard, like a day or two earlier or a day or two later, somewhere around that. And then they lost the Iconics during the show, or the Inspiration, whatever they call themselves. Those two women wrestlers that we watched the match of, I think for a Patreon, in fact, like they're like teenagers from a horror film. Like they're dropping like flies. And then there's no WWE crossover anymore, really, apart from Ariana Grace, who is one of 3 separate authority figures on TNA TV at the same time. Because you've got Santino, you've got his real-life daughter, Ariana Grace, whatever her real name is, and you've got the actual authority figure, Carlos Silva. It's bananas what's going on there.
I was going to say, if it's a horror movie, then we're the people in the movie theater going, don't go into the promotion. Don't go into the promotion. No, they have a low-paying contract. They're right behind you.
With a pen.
Yeah, it's blank amount of money for blank amount. Oh, that's the wrong contract. Sorry. They're one step away from just trying to sign wrestlers outside the downtown farmers market on a truck hood.
That's not the only person who's gone. Another firing happened. Sami Callihan. I don't know if have you ever crossed paths with Sami?
Oh yeah, fellow cat lover. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, there you go.
Sammy's really good dude. I know these friends with Ben Hameen and other people, and I've had very limited interaction, but about cats, of course, he's automatically a saint.
Sami Callihan wrote the following. Thought I was getting called today to be offered a position in creative. Nope. I parted ways with TNA. Oh well, onward to the next adventure. Yeah, he had retired from wrestling last summer, only to be working as an agent for about just under a year, I guess. And he thought he was in good standing with the company, but no, he's been released instead. Which is even more telling than most, because, like, you tell me if I'm wrong. Look, the booking in TNA is not great. It hasn't been great for a very long time. I understand switching bookers with Dreamer, or moving Dreamer along. But then you're just now randomly getting rid of producers. I'm not even sure why.
Yeah, I mean, and the guy who retired to see that hopefully I have a second career, second run in the business. In these jobs, Dreamer's job, when D'Lo was there, whoever's an agent and they're actually wrestling, these people are juggling multiple jobs within TNA. Once again, you're juggling multiple positions, which that's what we want to do. We want to make ourselves as indispensable as possible. But then again, you're not getting paid a lot, as my guess, to do all those things. And then in the end, like Steve Macklin, I could feel the disappointment and frustration from you reading that quote. You know why? It's like I gave everything. We took bumps, no matter where you're at on the card. The bumps hurt just the same, and your post-wrestling life is not going to be the same as the pre-wrestling life. So the sacrifice is there. You're sacrificing everything, and I truly know that Dreamer, Macklin, Rhino, these other people, Sami Callihan, they believe not only in just pro wrestling and trying to put the best product out there, they believe in the company and they want to get behind the company, and they proved they were loyal to the company. And guess what happened? Your best efforts, your best sacrifices, shortening whatever you have as far as a healthy life, whatever family commitments that you've put off to be here. And like Dreamer said in his quote, 24/7 job. Thanks, but no thanks. Not good enough.
The final thing to mention is that it was rumored a few weeks ago that Mike Santana's contract with TNA is coming up. He's still currently their world champion. I'm not saying there's going to be like a Bret Hart situation here or anything, but it's been said that his contract is coming up at some point in the summer. WWE are eyeing him up. Mike Santana really kind of bet on himself when he decided to not only insist on breaking up with Ortiz in AEW, wanted to do a singles run, and then leaving AEW to try his luck in TNA. And apparently he's got a great reputation. People are advocating for him in WWE to bring him in already, so it's seeming likely that Mike might be going. And that's their world champion. That's the guy they built most of the main storylines around for at least a year at this point now.
Yeah, you know what they're going to do? Just let him go without having any kind of stuff like putting people over on the way out, making sure that that's what the thing about TNA is. It lacks, or it kind of does a bunch of things wrong with the fact of what's the number one thing that you need wrestling fans to do when they watch an episodic TV program along with pay-per-views, PLEs. You want them to be emotionally invested in characters in storylines. The fans want to share the journeys of all these wrestlers that are on television. But then the journey fades away, and the repeated pattern of people disappearing, contracts not being renewed, releases out of nowhere, whatever else, this carnage nature of this company. Why? And that's why I think people on the AMC show, when we watched it, were just like sitting there, not even caring, because it's years and years and years of stop, start, stop, start. Here's the face of wrestling. The face of wrestling is going to be changed forever with this person. Oh, now this person, well, their contract ran out, so their face is gone. Let's get another one to change the face of wrestling forever. The people, the fans, the people watching or going to the shows are like, why should I care about this wrestler? They're eventually going to be gone anyway. Wouldn't you be like, why should I give my emotional support or hate this wrestler or feel anyway, when all you guys do is you just basically put them on TV for a while, then they're going to go? If I believed in Mike Santana as world champion, don't I deserve to see the downfall as well as the rise? He's just going to rise and then lose the title and he's gone, which, by the way, the fans are now connected to the internet, so they're going to know he's already gone before the match. So why should I even? Do you see where this snowballs and the domino effect and everything?
Yeah, with TNA, it's very much either people on the way up or people on the way down. There's nothing currently super hot there. Like, as great as the Hardys were, we know they're at very much at the tail end of their career, and they'll be the only person who, like, I think a lot of people feel has wrestled for a long time, yet kind of feel that they've still got a lot to offer in a main event or near to it, is Nick Nemeth. Which it kind of seems incongruous that he's still in TNA, where it's like TNA is such a transient promotion, has been for so many years. Even when you were there in the late 2000s, even with your Mick Foley's and Booker T's and Kevin Nash and whoever else was going there, it felt like it was a stopover until they went back to WWE, and TNA's always had that issue.
Yeah, it always felt like, and this is where people have even talked about it. I talked about it in previous episodes about it looked like a waiting room to get some free, easy money before you go back to the real wrestling companies. That's what it felt like when you were there. And they did nothing. They've done nothing over these years to correct that stereotype, to make people like me and other people completely wrong, to show it's a miracle this company is still in business, by the way. How many times have people said it can't last another year, can't last another year? And, I don't want to see anybody out of a job, whether they're office people, wrestlers. I can care less about the corporation or the network that runs it, because quite frankly, they suck. So let's just call it what it is. You're terrible at this. It's not that hard to do. But when you're doing these things, Nick Nemeth, you're absolutely wasting your time taking valuable bumps in this company where you're just going to disappear in the end anyway, unless you're one of the few people getting paid a living wage or a really good living wage, which is it's either the rich or the extremely poor looking for second jobs after they do the TV tapings and pay-per-views.
I think with TNA, it's like they've just never had the greatest investment. Even when Dixie Carter was there, she would overpay like the washed-up guys, loads and loads of money, and then completely undervalue everybody else. Like how many people who hadn't had major WWE runs were like barely, and you were one of them. Like, who was the one, like, I don't know if it was Taryn Terrell or whoever was, and this is years ago, and nothing's changed, but, working at the Sunglasses Hut to make ends meet. And you said you weren't getting paid a living wage. Loads of people said that, who were on TV every week or thereabouts in major storylines. I always wonder how much Abyss was getting paid. I think that would be interesting. Do you think he ever broke six figures in TNA?
Well, if anybody deserved to do it for what he put his body through, of course he did. But I don't know. Maybe he got just about six, or maybe low six figures. But Abyss is a guy that should have made. He should have had WrestleMania matches. I think that we even discussed it. They were talking about when he was at TNA, they wanted him to work with Taker in WWE because his deal was coming up. And I don't know exactly what they were giving him, but he was featured. See, that's the trap in wrestling. What would you rather have? Would you rather be, we didn't say the name before on the $300,000 world champion. Would you rather be a person that wins the world title and doesn't get paid a lot, or would you rather get paid a ton of money and, basically not get really pushed to your potential? I'd say somewhere in the middle, because if you're getting a ton of money and you're not getting pushed or not earning the money or earning the right to keep that salary, you're going to get released. So somewhere in the middle. But yeah, I mean, people like Nick Nemeth, you got Moose there. Who else? I can't even name probably five wrestlers
Like Brian
unless it's like
Myers and the System, the Hardys. I mentioned the Dutch and what's the other guy? They're in AEW. They've gone to TNA tag team. Dutch and Vincent. They're there.
Oh, Vincent was the guy from ROH with the long dreadlocks.
Yeah. Mustafa Ali. He's there.
He's doing like the politician gimmick. They got a lot of people, but then again, they don't do anything to really. We can go on and on. The problem is, and all those people we just mentioned, be careful or just have something for afterwards, because you know when it's such a slow moving train wreck. Like, look, Steve Macklin, Tessa Blanchard, the Dreamer stuff. All these people have seen this before. Dreamer knew about it when we were EV2 way back in the day. It's no different now, but it's the worst thing in the world is when you're with a company, you're trying so hard to get noticed, or you're trying so hard to go to the next level, or maybe you'll make a little more money, get an opportunity, get into the main event or whatever it might be. And you just see that the week in and week out, they're not doing anything with you, which means it's really the beginning of the end. And you just don't know. And if you have a year and a half left on your contract, 2 years, you're just going to sit there and wait. They're going to run the clock out on that. And you're not going to make it. And you're going to be working at the Sunglass Hut. whether you're taking big bumps or not in the main event or not, more than likely you're going to be working in Sunglass Hut.
Yeah, that's the big frustration with TNA for so many years now. It's eventually they will build up some goodwill again, even if it's accidental, even if it's just changing the name back to TNA, and they had some goodwill, and then build some momentum. And then somehow they get in their own way again. Like with the AMC thing, they finally got a really great deal on AMC, and people just kept leaving. They put on, I swear down, the worst debut show I've ever seen from a wrestling company. It was shocking on every level. And then, worse than being like actively bad, they just fade into obscurity again within weeks. And who's talked about unless it was Carlos Silva pulling all the AEW talent from TNA, talent on the indies in the run to WrestleMania. What have you really heard from TNA between January and April? What have we heard from TNA in the last 6 months, really, unless it was a negative or unless it was people leaving? There's just something. Is it a haunted house at this point?
It sure feels that way. It sure feels that way. And everything you said, that's the only story I remember about TNA, our two stories, is that debut show that we watched, and then the MJF thing, Carl's. Nothing that makes you want to watch TNA. Nothing that makes you curious about anything that's going on outside of Moose, who's even maybe Nick Nemeth, but people don't consider him to be the face of the company. There's that's not a slight on Nick. Nick needs to go somewhere where he's getting paid what he deserves and he's getting the opportunity that he truly deserves.
I was just going to try and get up the roster, but I don't think there's any point at this point. I'm just trying to think if there's any other names.
AJ Francis as well. Video me. Dr. Stevie is never going back to TNA. We get that once in a while. Are you going to be Dr. Stevie? I think if there was a 1% chance, I think this video pretty much made it zero. But knowing TNA is going to TNA. It's exactly the person they want to hire. Those are so weird, man.
I'm just going to read. They've got some good talent still. AJ Francis, I mentioned Brian Myers. Cedric Alexander's there. Eddie Edwards is there. Frankie Kazarian still wrestles for them. Bear with me. I mentioned the Hardys. I'm trying to come up with some of the bigger names.
They got Bagwell maybe wrestling a match soon.
Yeah, maybe against Zach Gowen.
Stop it. You stop it.
Rich Swann.
Oh, he's awesome. He's awesome. Hey, side note about TNA, just while I'm thinking about it. I got a text, or I text Chris Bay. He's doing so incredibly well. He's got a long road ahead of him. But man, it's such a miracle and such an inspiring thing to see. He was showing me like box jumps like a few months ago. And literally the guy who couldn't walk or do anything was in a wheelchair. he can do box jumps better than I can. Who's 100%. It's probably better than both of us. It's just amazing. So big shout out to Chris. That's a guy right there. Why are you not? I don't know what he's doing, if he's working with them backstage or doing. How are you not having Chris Bay even be like a goodwill ambassador for the company, doing media appearances, speaking to people, and showing that as far as TNA being a company that has these literally inspirational characters like Chris Bay.
Well, TNA is going to TNA. That is the explanation, I think, and that's a good time to wrap up the video. Thank you very much for watching. The full episode will be out later today. This, once again, was a YouTube exclusive clip, but we'll be talking about the WWF ECW so-called invasion. Oh, I spoke to Perry Saturn, by the way. He said on the 1-2 weeks after that, you know, where they've got the podium deal?
Yeah.
Perry said, me and Hawk were partying backstage. I don't remember anything about that day. So I was like, fair enough, man. Okay, I'll say thank you once again. The full episode's out there. This is the Manhattan Center, by the way. ECW thing with Stevie as well versus Nunio, of course, and all the other things, all the good stuff that happens on that episode, as well as all the
What's funny
news.
is I love that everybody calls him Nunio now, no matter what. Even my wife calls him Nunio. And
Well,
you call him Nunio.
Well, for Stevie, for Nunio, and everybody else, we will see you again soon.